Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter is Coming. Today's episode is going to be the last episode regarding All Out War, and this episode is going to focus around the army aspects or war aspects of the event, since we have covered the general introduction in the first video, and we covered the buildings and healing / gathering in the last video. Then we are of course looking at the war aspects in this one. And as we showed in the last video, the setup is similar to Siege of Winterfell. There's nothing new in that regard. When you click on the commanders, you can see that commanders are available. One thing that you have to note is that their stats have changed and their abilities have changed. Some of them have higher ability output, some of them have completely different abilities. For example, Soren can heal the wounded soldiers on the command, which is a really nice thing to have as a reserve, of course. And because of that, you have to kind of look through the commanders to see how their skills have changed compared to their Siege of Winterfell counterpart. Overall, it's just made so it fits more into the thematic of this event here, because Siege of Winterfell is of course a shorter event, so healing and might reduction and so on is more prevalent there than it is here. So check through the commanders and you will probably notice some of the differences that are there. I'm just highlighting it to you now. We can take 3 commanders as well as we do in Siege of Winterfell. And once we have 3 commanders, you can of course apply a vehicle, drag and so on. We showed that as well last video. Something we didn't show is that mono marches have special troops. You can confirm activation, for example, then bowmen will be evolved into eagle eyes, and eagle eyes have certain special abilities, and this applies to all mono marches, of course. You can do the same for infantry, and I believe the evolved form of infantry is called ironclads, and all these have their niche abilities. I believe bowman gets a 30% increased range or compared to other troops once upgraded. Ironclad gets, I believe it's a damage reduction and so on. These things aren't fully implemented yet here, but they will be available for the public server once that's a release there. And yeah, aside from that, there's also the ability to convert to logistics, which you have to click if you want to run the medic wagon, which we talked about as well last episode. And the logistics sorry, is basically when players choose to deploy troops as logistics, their health will be increased, defense will be increased, and attack will be reduced. However, the supplies being transported by the deployment can be used to replenish resilience of allies. When players deploy with medic vehicles, they can heal allies, which is a really nice thing to have added into this. It gives another layer to things in that regard. And if you have the military cities, you can see here that you can deploy from other military cities, and you can see that it then costs X amount of wheat to do so. So yeah, that's roughly this. We will now take a look at how village conquest and general conquest works in this game. So to be able to conquer something or take over something, you actually have to have a space connected to it. You can see when we look around that the other factions as well have like certain roads created by capturing cities and then capturing villages to kind of bind together a road that goes through the map. And this is a basic requirement. You can't just jump over cities that you don't own. For example, if I want to capture the city up here, I have to get some of the smaller villages that are sitting around it, and this can be done in a simple way. In this particular case, we will take a look at how it works. You can see here that I have 2 armies out right now. You can click on a village and you can see I have the surrounding villages conquered, and it's fairly simple. Once you click on a village, there's the information button, there's the share button which shares the coordinates in the chat, more details button, and then there's the launch occupation button. And in this case we want to occupy the city, so we start the launch occupation, and you can see that there's a timer now, And once I move in with the army, you can see that the timer changes from 0 seconds to 10 seconds, and this pretty much allows us to slowly start taking over the city. The city has a 1000 durability, so for each second the durability is going down with 10. Once it goes down to 0, then the city will be conquered and occupied. And when we click on this troop, you can see here the city is on fire. We've conquered the city, everything is fine. It's shown as ours on the map, but right now if someone else comes, they can pretty much immediately take over the city. So it's in the best interest of a troop to click on it again. You can now see that there is a discard option, which discard the city. There is a troop list, which shows you the troops that are around, and then there's also go rebuild. And the rebuild button is super important. You can see here, for example, it asks for a army to be selected, so I'm selecting the army that's nearby and clicking on it, and now you can see my army is gone and should start rebuilding constructing the city. Once you click on it, you can see here it's rebuilding with roughly 10 per second, and this allows you to heal up this village and make it more difficult for the enemy to capture. Otherwise I can just go directly in and overtake it immediately. When you click here on my first march, you can see here that it's slowly taking the city, still 10 seconds or 10 durability each second. Each army in there gives another 10 per second, so if you have 3 armies in there, you get 30 per second. If you have 10 armies there, you get 100 per second. So it can go really, really fast. And this also kind of indicates that the game mode will probably be very fast paced the first few days, and then once people start losing troops, running out of troops and getting pushed back, they will probably slow down the event somewhat. You can also see here that my resilience has dropped a little bit from moving and from trying to take over a village and so on, like stuff like that. Super simple. The more your resilience drops, you can see the more your damage dealt drops, and the more damage you will also take. Right now at 79 resilience, 97 resilience, you can see that I have only deal 99% of the damage I originally would have dealt, and I will take 101% of the damage that I would normally take. So keep that in mind. We already covered just before how you can recover your resilience through logistics people. And overall it's super simple. Another aspect that of course should be explained is the rally aspect. I can't really show exactly how it works, but I can explain how it works due to the limitations we have in terms of resources and other things on the testing server right now. So it's not easy to create a rally when you don't have any resources. We've already used everything at that point. But basically, once a rally will be set up, it will be shown in the rally menu. And that's one way to find it, but to create a rally is a little bit more difficult. You have to go into the armory, and then in the faction garage you can see that there are, of course, we went through that in the last episode, there's a bunch of vehicles, and some of these vehicles are needed to actually initiate a rally. For example, we have here the small gorilla chariot, and you can see that the special feature allows it to create a 10 march rally. And of course, also keep in mind that these are, I believe they are limited. I'm not sure if you can just keep them around. I believe they are limited to a use of 30 minutes or something like that. Also, I'm not 100% sure. And once you go up to higher tiers, you can see that you get certain allied active buffs. For example, this will give total attack and total defense plus 30%, and will increase the amount of marches to 20. The level 3 one will increase the marches to level to 30 and will give 50% of all 3 totals, and also increasing move speed, for example, which is a really nice thing. There are 2 types of rally chariots. There's the guerrilla one and then the positional. The positional one has increased counter damage dealt as a special ability instead, and so it really depends on what's suitable for your faction. You can see that the costs are pretty pretty much roughly the same, nothing really different in that aspect. So you just have to have someone that's strong, ask for a chariot, and then of course the faction as a whole has to come together to create the chariot. If you, for example, end up begin application, you can send in an application, but there's not enough storage place, so it can be applied to the production queue, but the leader has to then accept the application, and then the chariot will show up as it does here, and then you have to come together with troops and then create it or build it slowly. So that's pretty much how the rally system works. Of course, keep in mind that once you are in the rally, you can't move out of the rally. You just put one of your marches in the rally, but if you don't want to be part of the rally anymore, you can just pull out your march and the rally will still continue for a set amount of time. So super easy as well in that regard. Might be a little bit confusing, but you will probably learn it once the first has been created. So before we finish up the video and the event, we are kind of looking at the map now, and you have to keep in mind that even though it might look like you can just take over everything in before server reset on the last day, that's not really the point of this event. This event is about holding buildings for the longest amount of time so that you can get enough kingship points, and that way you can win the event. So even if you say like, okay, we take everything the evening before server reset and we haven't done anything before then you most likely will not have enough kingship to even get up high in the rankings. So it's something that has to be done and kept alive constantly, which also means that you have to know your limits and see how strong your opponents are and not push too far because of the resilience system that's in place. I personally would probably recommend that you try to find certain choke points that you can defend from a good point of your own, and then in that choke point you try to hold the enemy outside and fight hopefully an advantageous battle where you force the enemy to use a lot of resilience to just move there, and then you can beat them there. Make use of the military cities, of course, if you can, and have the wheat for it to deploy from there to have a higher resilience from in the area that you have to be in. And yeah, overall the event is probably really complicated for you at first. You will probably need to try yourself out. I hope the 3 videos I've made will help you out in that regard and kind of like allow you to help understand certain aspects of the game. I covered pretty much roughly most of the things that you have to do in the game. Everything else just comes down to leadership and following that leadership now. So I hope you all enjoyed this little mini series of this event. Like and comment if you want to, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always I'm going to leave everything in the description down below for you to join the game or for you to look at the other videos. So yeah, take care guys, have fun in the new event when it comes out, and yeah, bye bye.